Tuesday night as we drop to 57, and then for Wednesday, partly sunny skies with a high of 69. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Kristen Cornett.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Business owners, download your free playbook for financial clarity at SerenityWealthBiz.com. That's SerenityWealthBiz.com.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli. We're sitting here with our great friend, Chris Cooper. Hi, Chris.
What's going on, Vic? How are you?
I hear you wrote another book. This one's an e-book. Is that right?
The Business Owner's Playbook for Financial Clarity. So it is a great book for entrepreneurs, a very short guide. Give people, business owners, the ability to understand key questions that are important, such as succession planning, legacy planning, getting the IRS out of our pockets, right? Because do you like paying taxes?
I do not.
I don't think anybody likes paying taxes, right? That just makes sense. And then always talking about protection. And then the other thing from a business owner perspective, what is the biggest asset a business owner has? Probably their business itself, right? We need to make sure we understand what the value of that business is as well.
So this new book, I'm sure, is incredibly expensive, right? How much?
No, it's a free resource.
Oh, it's free.
We provide guidance, we provide education because we want to make sure people feel educated and understanding because sometimes you don't know what questions to ask, and we need to make sure we help arm people with information to ask the right question.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
No big old corporate lib AM station telling us what to say here. Conservative talk for St. Louis. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
Nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you could put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
I think we can agree that this session was productive and resulted in a monumental win for many Missourians. My team and I are reviewing the legislation that has been sent to my desk, but I want to touch on a few big wins that we've seen this session. The Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act was passed, another testament to Missouri's pro-life values and action here at the Capitol.
And our first guest this afternoon is very familiar with everything that Governor Kehoe just said about the recently concluded session, so he'll be able to break all of that down and more when we speak with him in just a moment. First of all, good afternoon. Welcome to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on a very windy, rainy, and tumultuous weather day here in the Midwest. Hope it's sunny if you're not here and you're somewhere else. Good afternoon, Chris Arps.
Good afternoon, Speaker Jones. How are you today?
Doing great. Just a little wet, having ran in from the parking lot and all
yeah.
that. But it's all good.
We need the rain.
We do. We always do. It's always a blessing from above. And Joey V here with us as well. Speak with him throughout the show. We've got Jim Talent coming up, Chris's Corner, the Speaker's Stump Speech, Susie Moore, and lots more straight ahead. We've been trying to get one of our intrepid new advertisers on for the last several weeks, Curtis Carell of Carell Roofing, but thankfully he has been completely and utterly slammed and busy because the storms have not let up. Today we were going to try to get him on as well to talk about Carell Roofing Company and also about a really cool event that he is hosting at his business next week. He was not available today, so he said, hey, how about my operations manager? You know this guy, State Senator Adam Schnelting. And I said, sure, absolutely. Adam is out of town right now. He got the heck out of Dodge, and I don't blame him, but he was available this afternoon at 4 o'clock. So long story short, that's why we're speaking with him now and next. Senator Schnelting, good afternoon. Happy end of session. The people's pocketbooks, liberties, and freedoms are safe once again, aren't they?
Hey, Tim, great to be with you. Great to be with you, Chris.
Yeah, great to be with you.
Yeah, listen, we had a good session. There were a lot of things there were some, obviously, anytime we have a legislative session, there were some bad things that got through, but we also had a few great wins. And so, happy to be on the program. Happy to tackle any of those, touch on any of those.
Mr. Representative, this was a pretty good session. My partner, Tim Jones, said he would give it a pretty solid B. What would you rate this session, and what are some things that were priorities for you and for others that didn't make it past the finish line this year?
Well, I mean, there were a couple of. One of the biggest things, Chris, is that we aimed, at least some of us conservatives in the Senate, and I know some of us conservatives in the House aimed to cut the budget. So one of the more exciting items that we accomplished this legislative session would be some of those budget wins. We were able to cut it by over $4 billion. We all want tax cuts, right? But we also have to cut spending. So I'm happy to report that this year the legislature did make some very necessary cuts. And we also passed some other additional necessary items. You know, we had legislation from Senators Schroer and Nicola banning Sharia law or no foreign law in our courts. We had legislation moving our school board elections from April to November for St. Charles County. That's something that I worked on. We got passed. So we certainly had some great wins this legislative session.
Speaking with State Senator Adam Schnelting from the County of St. Charles. He is the operations manager at Correll Roofing Company, and they have a great event coming up that I think is perfect for Adam to talk about because he was the architect of the new Amendment 3, which was passed last year. And Adam, you may not want to take credit for this, but because you're a humble guy, but I'm going to say that I don't think the new Amendment 3 wouldn't have passed without your diligence and persistence and your legislative acumen last year. It seems like forever ago, Adam, that passed. That was 12 months ago in the last legislative session, but it's now going to be on the ballot this year. Talk about the importance of that and about the event that you all are hosting at Correll Roofing Company next Wednesday, the 27th.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. So 30,000-foot view in 2024, Missourians and pro-lifers in general were greatly outspent by Planned Parenthood and New York City billionaires. They spent over $31.5 million to present Missourians with a false dichotomy. They said, pass the abortion amendment or women are going to die from a lack of quote-unquote health care. And that was such a lie, Tim. We all know it. The abortion amendment enshrined abortion on demand in our Constitution. It also enshrined so-called sex changes for kids in our Constitution. So we went from being one of the most pro-life states in the Union to one of the most radical abortion safe havens in the world, not just the country. And so this new Amendment 3 is a very, very pro-life amendment that will prohibit most abortions, and it will also ban those so-called sex changes for kids. And so if we want to protect women and children, this is a huge, huge opportunity to do so. But in order to do that, we have to raise money if we expect to win the fight to protect women and kids. So Correll Roofing and I are hosting a fundraiser with the governor, with the First Lady, and Attorney General Catherine Hanaway to raise money for that effort. So it's going to be at Correll Roofing Company in Darden Prairie on the 27th. That's next Wednesday at 5:30. Would love for your listeners to join us and to come out, and they can find more information or they can contribute online at herhealthherfuture.com. But would love for your listeners to come out and join us.
Senator, talk about the legislation of moving the school board elections in St. Charles County to November and how important that is.
Thank you for that question, Chris. It's vitally important. So I introduced Senate Bill 1002, moving our elections from April to November. Now, I introduced it to do this statewide, of course. And, of course, the Democrats in the Senate would not allow me to get it out. So I did have to peel it back. I pared it back to our county in St. Charles County. Bottom line is our kids deserve a school system that's more representative of the broader community. And currently, a small contingent of our electorate is making those decisions that affect our kids' school budgets, their curriculum, and just the future of our students in general. And oftentimes that low turnout in those April elections are NEA members or the school staff and a lot of the folks who are kind of part of the system, but not in a good way, right? And so moving our school board elections to the general election allows us that, or ensures, I should say, that 50, 60% of the voters are going out and have a say in those elections, as opposed to like 8 to 15%, depending on the election year, depending on the April. So our schools are going to benefit from a broader public engagement, and our kids are certainly going to benefit from it.
Yeah, Senator Schnelting, these elections, it's unfortunate that we have such low turnout, but we do. It's just a fact. It's a historical fact, despite the fact that you and I and Chris and many of our other listeners are devoted voters. It seems like there's a chunk of the electorate that misses these elections. And so they become very targeted special interest elections, don't they? On school boards, on bonding issues, on tax increases. And it seems like a really bad way to run local governments and local school boards. What say you as to that?
Oh, absolutely. Listen, we would never encourage, or we would never discourage folks from going out and voting in August or voting in November. In fact, we are always telling folks that they need to get registered to vote or go get others registered to vote and get out there and vote. But when it comes to our April elections, for some reason, if you try to put the school board in August or November, some folks in the education establishment just cry foul. And the bottom line is the reason they don't want broader engagement from the community is because they know that parents, by and large, are going to be come out and vote, and it's going to be more of a conservative voter base that's going to be calling the shots in some of these elections. Our schools are going to benefit from this. That whole woke nonsense, you can kind of kiss that goodbye. The pornographic materials in our school libraries, those days are numbered. This issue is so vitally important. And that's the reason why I wanted to be a bulldog about this in Jefferson City. And I'd love for it to be statewide, desperately for it to be statewide. But my county is something we had to appeal back to, and I know it's a huge win for my county, and I'm very grateful that we were able to get it passed.
Senator, a couple of weeks ago, the Supreme Court ruled that racially gerrymandered districts were unconstitutional. We have a racially gerrymandered district here in Missouri, the 1st District. Is there any talk in Jefferson City or possibly in the governor's office of calling a special session to redraw the lines once again?
You know, I can't really speak for the governor's office, and there's been a little bit of talk, a few rumors, in Jefferson City, but it's mostly from individuals kind of in our more conservative caucus. It was like Freedom Caucus types like Senator Schroer and myself having this discussion. But I certainly wouldn't say there's some wide plan afoot for that to take place. But I can certainly tell you, when you look around the country and you see New England, you see the New England state, or well, you know what? Let's just use Illinois as an example. Illinois voted for Trump by what was it? It was 55 to 45, 45 being Trump. They have 17 seats in Congress, and the Republicans only have 3 of those. So you want to talk about gerrymandered maps? You go up to New England, and in all the New England states, even though roughly 40+%, depending on the state, voted for Trump, not a single congressional seat up there is held by a Republican. So, this idea that we shouldn't be fighting fire with fire and protecting our values and ensuring that a conservative state like Missouri shouldn't be, supporting our values as a state as a whole, I think would be I think it's a bad idea. I think what we need to do is we need to ensure that our values are being represented in D.C.
Speaking with Senator Adam Schnelting, state senator from the great county of St. Charles. Adam, you've had a very successful first couple of years in the Senate, passing the new Amendment 3 proposal last year, which will be on the statewide ballot either in August or December this year. We talked about your bill that passed regarding moving school board elections in St. Charles County from April to November. And then you had another piece of legislation passed that I don't know if it had broad bipartisan support or not, but I think it was it moved through rather smoothly, all things being equal when you look at bills. The Show Me Prosperity Fund, fascinating concept. Would you explain it to us?
Yeah, absolutely. So last year I began working on this concept. I want to reimagine how we fund government. So I'm proposing a monumental shift in how we view government and how we view how we fund its operations. So think about this, Chris and Tim. We tax our citizens on their businesses and on their income. We tax them every year on their homes and their cars. We tax their food, and we tax the very clothes on their back. The legislation that I proposed and pass the legislature. It's going to be on their ballot, on voters' ballots this year. If they pass it, it establishes the Show Me Prosperity Fund. Now, the fund acts like an endowment fund, and it's created with the intent of eliminating all state-imposed taxes. By replacing the revenue derived from those taxes with the revenue earned from the fund in the form of an annual distribution. You know, compound interest is a really powerful thing. Albert Einstein said that he called it the eighth wonder of the world. So the bottom line that I'm proposing is with this fund is that if we harness the power of compound interest within several generations, Missourians could be the first people in America not to be taxed by their state government. So we would become a state that didn't just create a new revenue source, but a whole new model for revenue generation for government. And if you think about it, we're kind of behind in this as it pertains to government because you have universities that are already doing this type of thing with their endowment funds. So they can move away from their reliance upon the tuition model. Well, we need to move away from taxation. We need to start saying, hey, we're going to invest and allow compound interest to go ahead and fund our government operations when that time comes.
And, of course, after every legislative session, there's a veto session in September. Any surprises there, or is it just going to be a regular kind of humdrum session?
You know, I'm glad you asked that, Chris. I think it'll probably be pretty humdrum, but you never know. I mean, who knows? We'll see what the governor does over the next couple of weeks as it pertains to bills that the legislature has passed. But if my gut reaction would be, and everyone seems to be getting along, my gut reaction is it'll probably be pretty humdrum.
And Adam, before we let you go, we'll remind folks that although Missouri has a citizen legislature, which is you're in session part-time, but it's a full-time job just with very part-time pay. So most, if not all, legislators do have to have a career to support their families, as you do. And you are the operations manager at Correll Roofing Company, one of our newest advertisers here. I imagine, Adam, given all the storms we've had this spring, you're all fairly busy, but you're always happy to be busier, especially if folks in our listening audience would like to give you all a call.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I've never been more proud to work for a company than Correll. The integrity of the owners, Curtis and Annie, and their commitment to the pro-life cause and conservatism in general, and just the excellent work that we do for our customers. I couldn't be more proud of our team. If any of your folks listening need some assistance or a free inspection on their roofs, just give us a call or go to CorrellRoofingCo.com, and we'll definitely hook them up, take care of them.
Fantastic. Thank you, Senator Adam Schnelting. Get a little rest. I know you'll be at it again soon, helping with Amendment 3 and some of the other things. And we'll put that information up on our website regarding the event. If you ever wanted to meet the governor, Mike Kehoe, the First Lady, Claudia, Senator Adam Schnelting, the Correll family, they're wonderful people. They're having an event next Wednesday, May 27th at Correll Roofing Company. Wednesday, May 27th, 5:30 to 7. We'll put the details up at newstalkstl.com. Senator, thanks for everything. Great session, and we'll look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Indeed. All right, Chris, we're going to get back to regularly scheduled programming. We have Senator Jim Talent coming up next.
Jim Talent.
Also, Chris, we had some breaking news this afternoon. There was a shooting at a mosque in San Diego, and the latest thing I saw before I left Jeff Allen's office, he had the television on, and they were reporting that there was two shooters. Both are deceased, and there may have been a third casualty as well. So we'll check out the details on that in the break. But unfortunately, yet another shooting in the United States of America.
Yeah, and this was at a Islamic center, so I'll be very curious to know all the details regarding that. Most of the mass attacks that we've seen like this in recent years have been against synagogues or against Christian churches, so this is a little unusual that it's an Islamic center, and as we get more details, we will pass them along to you as well.
We will check the monitors and check the news sources in the break that we're going to have right now, but we're going to be right back with Jim Talent to talk about everything going on in the Middle East between Russia and Ukraine, China, North Korea, also in the news, and more. We'll break it all down with Senator Jim Talent next on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Happy Manic Monday. 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert meteorologist Kristen Cornett with your forecast. A flood watch is in effect for the area through 1 p.m. on Tuesday. For tonight, scattered rain and storms are likely. Will drop to 69. More scattered rain and storms on Tuesday as a cold front moves through the area. Look for an afternoon high of 84. Scattered rain and storms Tuesday night as we drop to 57. And then for Wednesday, partly sunny skies with a high of 69. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Kristen Cornett.
All the information I need on the drive to work.
Like Ferguson in the morning. I keep it on throughout the day, whether it's local, national, or something big that's happening overseas.
News, analysis, and opinion. St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk. News Talk STL.
Since 1964, and that's just a couple of years before my birth, so that means that Royal Banks of Missouri has been around for about 62 years, and they are very proud to be your local community bank serving St. Louis, St. Charles, Southern Illinois, and even up in Northeast Missouri. And what I love about Royal Banks is this: they've got that hometown feel, but they also made banking incredibly convenient. Their local team is ready to partner with you at any stage of your financial journey, whether you're just getting started or planning your next big move. And here's the game changer: their interactive teller machines are their ITMs. No more rushing to beat bank hours. You can connect with a real Royal Banks employee even in the evenings and on Saturdays, whether it's a deposit, a payment, or just getting help. It's simple, secure, and you're still talking to a real person you can trust. That's the difference with a true community bank. Visit royalbanksofmo.com to find an ITM near you and learn more. That's royalbanksofmo.com. Royal Banks of Missouri, investing in our communities, one client at a time. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
When you count on Connor, you're getting the timeless American values that have guided our company from day one. Hard work, impeccable service, and honesty. At Connor Roofing, you aren't just getting a roof, you're getting safeguarded by a neighbor who cares. When you count on Connor, you're receiving protection for your home, your family, and your peace of mind.
Visit ConnorRoofing.com.
Hey, Colombo here for Intervine, a great local company that has customers all across the country due to the quality of their products. Intervine has the best flashlights, lanterns, headlamps, and even batteries, including the new Monster 2000 Lumen waterproof lantern and the Sentinel 2000 self-defense flashlight. Our home and vehicles are full of great Intervine products, and right now you can shop their website and get 25% off your entire purchase just by using my name, Tony, as your promo code. That's promo code Tony at Intervine.com.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stiefel. Contact your Stiefel financial advisor at Stiefel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Dropping truth bombs and making you think. It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
In the wake of the CIA director's visit to Cuba, Axios now reporting that Cuba has acquired more than 300 military drones and recently began discussing plans to use them to attack the U.S. base at Guantanamo Bay and possibly even Key West, Florida. The reporting comes, Axios says, from classified intelligence that was shared with its publication, and that it would show a degree to which the Trump administration views Cuba as a threat.
Former U.S. Senator Jim Talent and chairman of the Reagan Institute.
I'm watching this and just wondering, who's running the show.
This Jim Talent segment is brought to you by Royal Banks of Missouri.
Senator Jim Talent, good afternoon. Are you staying dry, sir?
A little bit. I've had to take the dogs out. I missed my afternoon walk around the neighborhood. Other than that, staying dry.
I thought you were going to say you missed your afternoon nap.
Well, I do sometimes take a little bit of a, what do they call that? A little bit of a break in the afternoon,
Yes.
Chris. when you reach my age, my friend, you tell me how often you sleep in the afternoon.
I do it now at 60. But anyway, you heard that clip there. Cuba has acquired military drones, could possibly attack Guantanamo Bay. There's been a lot of Cuba news. The U.S. is looking to indict Cuban leader Raul Castro. And there's been reports that the U.S. Navy and Air Force have stepped up surveillance of Cuba. Senator, could we potentially see an invasion or an attack of Cuba in the very near future?
I doubt that they would do anything like that. I'm wondering how they paid for those drones. They've announced they're out of diesel and fuel oil, and there's blackouts about 20 hours a day. No, I think this is was that report confirmed, by the way, or is this just Axios? Because I'd be interested to know. But in any event, no, we're stepping up the pressure on Cuba, and it's the Venezuelan playbook. And the idea is you need to start playing ball with us, or you're not going to be there. And if they were to try and attack, I think they would regret it very, very quickly.
I know how they're paying for those drones, Senator. They're paying for them with Cuban cigars. Probably sent them a boatload over.
Could be that sector of the economy has survived. And listen, if we can get rid of this regime, or if we can get a regime that plays ball with us, Cuba could develop very quickly and be a really good ally in the Caribbean. So we will see what happens there.
Senator, there's a lot of reports out today, and we'll have to see we'll have to determine the veracity of them as we take them one by one. But there's a report out of the Middle East that seems to be confirmed by a lot of the news agencies that the president, Donald J. Trump, has announced he would delay his plan to strike Iran. So as we talked about last week, following the China summit, it sounds like there definitely was a plan in place to continue more elevated military operations in that region. But that has been delayed, and it apparently was at the request of Iran and some of the other countries in the region. Senator, do you think the Iranians are just trying to do what they always do and just beg and borrow for some more time and delay? Or do you think there might be the semblance of a diplomatic solution perhaps taking shape?
Well, I'm sure there are talks going on. I doubt we're going to reach a solution until we have another wave of kinetic activity, attacks, and clear the strait, which I think was coming. But I also think that Saudi Arabia and the UAE are concerned about attacks on their infrastructure, and in particular their utility infrastructure, their desalination facilities. So they don't want Iran to be in control of the strait. They also are concerned about that. Look, I think they're going to have to at some point put on their big boy pants. We have a lot of capacity to help defend them. So do the Israelis. And I think given the squeeze on Iran now, if and when, and we can when we want to, if we clear the strait to at least most of the traffic that was going through there before, at that point, the blockade continues and they're not going to have any choice but to basically surrender on our terms, because they can't go on like this. I mean, their military's been effectively destroyed, and now their economy's being throttled. So that's the next step. I was very pleased when about 2 weeks ago we announced Operation Project Freedom to open up the strait, and I think that has to come and will come. But we have to, I think, go through this diplomatic dance to satisfy our Gulf state allies.
Senator, I want to focus on another area of your expertise, and that is your old stomping grounds, the United States Senate. We know that Reconciliation 2.0 is being debated this week, and over the weekend, the Senate parliamentarian ruled that the $1 billion for the ballroom for security did not comply with reconciliation rules. It didn't pass the bird bath rule. For those of us who may not be familiar with the bird bath rule, and that was a place where you spent a lot of time in the Senate, what is the bird bath rule and what happened over the weekend?
Well, generally speaking, there's a limit on what you can put on a reconciliation bill. It's intended for taxes, for changes in the safety net programs. Now, in recent years, it has evolved that certain kinds of spending can be put on them. And the Democrats did that first. And so we funded, for example, ICE last year through the reconciliation bill, also defense spending through the reconciliation bill. And Chris, let me be upfront with you and your listeners. I don't know why that spending can be funded on reconciliation, but this can't. I know it's important because it's security spending for the new ballroom, so that we don't have to have things like the White House, press dinner in places where stray people can run past the magnometers and try and get at the guests and get at the people on the dais. But I don't know, and all I'll say in my defense is I doubt there are 24 people in Washington who could explain this aspect of the Senate rules to you and be correct in doing it. They get it very arcane. And if I talk about this too long, I'm going to get upset about the filibuster. At the very least, they ought to open up the filibuster to allow continuing resolutions to keep the government open without any other legislation on the continuing resolution and at the same levels as last year's spending. Because whatever you think of the filibuster, and I know you're kind of a supporter, Chris, it's one thing if you allow a Senate minority to paralyze the Senate, but we shouldn't allow it to paralyze the government as a whole. So that's what I'd like to see them do. I don't think Thune has the votes to do it, and so we're forced to try and shoehorn needed things like this into reconciliation.
Senator, something that might help provide a bit of a hammer on these shutdowns when we have one in the future is the resolution that passed unanimously by voice vote. They advanced a resolution 99-0 and then passed it unanimously by voice vote last week in the Senate to prohibit pay for the senators if and when the government shuts down again. Senator, I hope that's not window dressing in any sense. I would assume the House would be happy to not have the senators be paid next time there's a shutdown. But do you think there's a chance this actually becomes law and might be a huge incentive, at least for a big chunk of senators, not to shut the government down for political purposes in the future?
Yeah, well, it's going to be pretty hard to have voted for that resolution and then accept the money.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a form of political pressure. And it used to be if you shut the government down for reasons that were unrelated to the appropriations bill under issue, that public opinion would force the party doing it to back down. The country's so polarized now that it hasn't been a powerful enough incentive. And the other thing is the Democrats really since last fall have been playing almost exclusively to their base, which is not a strategy I would adopt heading into the midterms, but it's the one that they've adopted. So we'll see. I mean, I think it's a good tactic. That they ought to feel some of the pain as well, since there is a very narrow fix, which I just talked about this a minute ago, to keep the government open.
Speaking with Jim Talent, former U.S. Senator and chairman of the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council. Senator, over the weekend in Louisiana, there was a bit of a political earthquake. It was kind of expected, but Senator Bill Cassidy failed to make the runoff. He actually came in third between three candidates. Your thoughts on that, sir?
Yeah, I saw that, Chris. And, I've lost elections. I won most of my elections, but I lost a couple. And so I always have some sympathy for people who do. I don't jump on top of them. He did vote to convict the president in 2001, I think it was. I think that came to vote just a few days before Trump left office. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to vote to convict on an impeachment a president of your own party, you need an explanation that people can understand and accept, and you can give in about 15 or 20 seconds. And I don't think Senator Cassidy ever had that. I never understood the point of impeaching somebody who was leaving office anyway. I don't think the grounds were there. Nixon resigned. They didn't impeach him. Mm-hmm. Probably could have, but they didn't. So I think people remembered, and that's unusual, as you guys know, for people to remember something 5 or 6 years later, but this was a pretty big thing. I thought his statement was very gracious. And, there is a life after elective politics, and I'm sure he'll explore it, and I wish him the best.
One part of that vote that I think really got the president's ire was that if President Trump would have been impeached and convicted, that he could never run for office again. And I think that was something that the president wasn't too happy about.
Yeah, and in effect, what they were saying was even if the American people wanted to elect him, which obviously it turned out they did, he wouldn't have the opportunity. And why? Because he gave a speech and then a riot followed, a speech in which he urged people to apply pressure peacefully. We all remember that, right? So, I mean, if they could have got him on something, the Biden administration would have prosecuted him. There was nothing there. And this apart from the wisdom of carrying the post-election fight as long as the president did. I mean, he's a fighter. He's not going to give up. One can disagree with that without believing that it was a high crime or misdemeanor under the Constitution.
Senator, tell us about the USS Gerald Ford. It's our newest aircraft carrier. This thing looks and sounds like an absolute beast. It's only 8 years old, which is incredibly new by military standards. Has 2 nuclear reactors on board. I think it was commissioned around 2017. It just returned home after a record 11-month deployment. And how long, Senator, does it take generally to re-rig and restock and clean up and spruce up something of that size before they can send it back out to sea?
It'll take, they can surge it in an emergency, but if it's routine maintenance, about 4 months is my recollection, Tim. Now, periodically they have to go through a major overhaul in which they check the nuclear apparatus. That takes longer. It's one of the reasons we need more aircraft carriers, but we especially need a bigger Navy. I mean, the general rule, Tim, is that for every ship you have at sea, there are 2 that are in port so that the ships can be maintained and the sailors can retrain and also, of course, rest. I mean, ideally, deployments shouldn't be longer than 6 months. But we only have a Navy with about 280 ships in it. So really, there shouldn't be more than 90 or 100 of them deployed. The Navy's overworked. This is why the administration wants a vastly increased Navy, why we've ordered about, I think, 120 ships in the last couple of years. We won't get them that quickly because so many shipyards have shut down and our shipbuilding capacity is down. But the administration has a maritime dominance plan. It includes rebuilding the maritime industry, commercial as well as naval. And it's one of the best things they've done, among the many good things they've done. It'll take a while. You can't flip a switch and get a ship or a shipyard. But it's very important, and they're pursuing it with a will. And so far, Congress has provided the funds.
Senator, it has been reported that the United States intends to invite Vladimir Putin to the upcoming G20 summit. In your geopolitical experience, is that a good idea?
Yeah, well, if it's confirmed, what I would assume, Chris, is that it's part of an attempt to get the war ended. The Russians are being hit now in Moscow and hit in their important infrastructure. This is not something Putin can ignore. In other words, the facts on the ground and in the air in the war are changing. They've also suffered even higher rates of casualties in the last few months and gotten even less territory for it. So the pressure is coming up on him. And I think you're going to see, combine the usual carrots and sticks to get him to agree to the bottom line that the president has been pushing, for the last 16 months, which is, okay, you get to keep at least some of the territory that you have conquered, which, as the last time I checked, is roughly like half the state of West Virginia. I mean, he's lost 1.3 million men for that, and that whole area is devastated by the war anyway. So he'll get to keep that, but the Ukrainians get sovereignty and they get security. That's an agreement he should make. And the pressure here is because these attacks are too visible to be ignored. And he's getting a lot of pressure from his ultra-nationalist wing, people he cannot ignore. So I assume that if this invitation is confirmed, it's probably in that context. And as you know, I think the president's a very good negotiator. So I don't second guess particular tactical moves unless we find out all about them and we have the opportunity to really review them.
And that's Jim Talent, former U.S. Senator, chairman of the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council. On X, he's at Jim Talent. Senator, thank you as always for your time, and have a great week, and we'll talk to you next Monday.
And you guys stay dry, too.
We will.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. 443, Chris's Corner. You know, California tried to build the future, but it may have built an energy trap. I'll tell you all about that next on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like us on Facebook at News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert meteorologist Kristen Cornett with your forecast. A flood watch is in effect for the area through 1 p.m. on Tuesday. For tonight, scattered rain and storms are likely. Will drop to 69. More scattered rain and storms on Tuesday as a cold front moves through the area. Look for an afternoon high of 84. Scattered rain and storms Tuesday night as we drop to 57. And then for Wednesday, partly sunny skies with a high of 69. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Kristen Cornett.
On the next, Larry Connors, USA.
The story behind the story. May 18th, 1980, Mount St. Helens volcano explodes.
Larry Connors, USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Correll Roofing Company, we just spoke with Senator Adam Schnelting, who's the operations manager for Correll Roofing Company. Curtis Correll is out and about and all over the place today, which is why he couldn't be with us. Well, we'll get him back on sometime in the near future. Curtis wanted me to tell you wanted me to express to you why you should call a local, independently owned, family-owned operation like Correll Roofing Company, if it's not self-evident. Well, the last thing you want to do is is give a giant check or deposit to some random out-of-town outfit that's just passing through the area, because there's a good chance you may never see him again. I hate to tell you, that still happens in today's world, believe it or not. Curtis confirmed it for me when I saw him this weekend at the annual Jeff Hansen Memorial Shoot. We were talking about how busy things are at Correll Roofing Company. However, they're more than happy to be busier with your business. Correll Roofing Company, as I said, is locally owned, family-owned, independently owned. They specialize in roofs, and that is one of the most, you don't think about it a whole lot. You probably look at it every single day and don't think about it much. You just want it to function. You want it to work. You want it to protect your homestead. It is the largest thing protecting your homestead, and you want it to be in good order. Would you know after a storm passes through what to look for on your roof? I sure wouldn't. I consider myself reasonably handy, but I don't know the first thing about, whether roofing shingles these days look good, bad, or ugly or not after a storm passes through. Curtis Correll knows. He's got 20-plus years in the business. His entire team are extremely experienced and organized and on it from day one. From the moment they come to your home, they're going to work with your insurance company and make sure that everything is done perfectly. All the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, and then some. Where can you find them? You can find them online. Correll, 2 R's, 2 L's. CorrellRoofingCo.com. They service the entire St. Louis and St. Charles metropolitan area. They're happy to come to your homestead and take care of you today. CorrellRoofingCo.com. That's CorrellRoofingCo.com.
License number GL250000615.
Hey, it's good to hear you.
Hey, Dad, isn't it good to see ya?
Yep, but with smoke alarms, we need to hear them. If one alarm is downstairs, you might not hear it upstairs.
At school, everyone hears the fire alarm.
That's why we install hardwired smoke alarms that all go off together, just like school.
Smoke alarms done the right way.
Green is always grasser at grasserhomeservices.com.
The Herzog Tomorrow Foundation provides private school tuition scholarships through Missouri's new Most Scholars program to cover the cost of accessible, high-quality schooling.
Hi, this is Myella Esser with the Herzog Tomorrow Foundation. Our private school tuition scholarships wouldn't be possible without the support of generous Missouri taxpayers. If you're a Missouri taxpayer interested in redirecting your tax dollars and sending them to Missouri students in need of a better education, please contact me at herzogmoscholars.org.
Better education for students creates a better tomorrow for all. Learn how you can help provide a better education for Missouri students at herzogmoscholars.org. That's herzogmoscholars.org. Also, sign up for The Lion, an initiative of the Herzog Foundation that carries articles covering a wide range of issues facing American families and culture. herzogfoundation.com. That's herzogfoundation.com.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Gas prices are climbing again. Bad timing, of course, as we head toward Memorial Day weekend.
And concerns are growing that supply could also tighten just as holiday demand picks up. Take a look at where gas prices stand today. In San Jose, a gallon of regular gas now costs $6.13. In Oakland, it's 7 cents higher at $6.20 a gallon. And in San Francisco, a gallon of regular unleaded is going for $6.31. Now, $7 per gallon could be less than 2 months away.
Chris.
And if you don't know, now you know.
And now, Chris's Corner.
California tried to build the future, but it may have built an energy trap. For years, California's political leadership promised the country that aggressive climate policies and strict energy regulations will create the economy of the future. Cleaner, greener, more advanced, less dependent on fossil fuels. But now, California is facing a reality that exposes a major contradiction at the heart of that vision. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum said last week that California has effectively turned itself into an energy island, isolated from much of America's domestic energy infrastructure because the state blocked pipelines, restricted refining capacity, fought transmission line expansion, and made new energy development extraordinarily difficult. And the result? California now imports a massive amount of oil by ship. According to Burgum, roughly 2 out of 3 barrels of oil used in California arrive by maritime transport. That's astonishing when you think about it. The state with some of the most aggressive anti-fossil fuel policies in America is heavily dependent on foreign and overseas energy supply chains to keep its economy functioning. And here's why that matters right now. Some of that oil flows through the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow shipping corridor near Iran, through which roughly a fifth of the world's oil supply passes. Every time tensions escalate in the Middle East, every time Iran threatens shipping lanes, every time global instability spikes, California becomes more vulnerable to price shocks and supply disruptions. Why? Because California deliberately disconnected itself from much of the American energy network. The state has spent years blocking or restricting pipeline projects that could move oil and natural gas more efficiently. It has resisted transmission line expansion needed to move electricity across regions. It has pushed refinery closures and discouraged new refining investment. And it has layered an environmental and regulatory policies that make energy production and infrastructure expansion incredibly difficult. Now combine that with another reality. California also has some of the most ambitious electrification goals in the country. The state wants electric vehicles, AI expansion, massive data center growth, renewable energy scaling, building electrification. All of these things dramatically increase electricity demand. But reliable, large-scale energy infrastructure hasn't expanded fast enough to support that vision. That's the contradiction. California wants a high-energy future while restricting many of the systems required to produce and transport energy reliably and affordably. And ordinary people end up paying the price. Last year, California's lowest gas prices were reportedly higher than the peak gas prices in many other states. Think about that. At its best, California energy prices often look worse than other states at their worst, and those costs spread through the entire economy. Higher transportation costs, higher grocery costs, higher utility bills, higher housing costs, and higher business operating expenses. Eventually, businesses leave, manufacturers relocate, and families move out. That's one reason California continues struggling with population outflow despite its natural advantages of weather and economic size. And here's another layer that doesn't get discussed enough: national security. Energy independence isn't just about economics, it's about resilience. America spent years increasing domestic energy production precisely to reduce vulnerability to unstable foreign regions. But California's policies move the state in the opposite direction, away from domestic integration and toward greater dependence on overseas shipping and foreign supply chains. That's why Burgum's comments matter beyond partisan politics, because this isn't simply a debate between environmentalists and oil companies. It's about whether modern America can realistically power AI, advanced manufacturing, electric vehicles, data centers, and economic growth, while simultaneously restricting pipelines, transmission systems, refineries, and domestic production. At some point, physics and economics enter the conversation whether politicians want them to or not, and that's why California increasingly looks less like a model and more like a warning. A warning about what happens when political ambition outruns infrastructure reality. Because eventually, every energy policy faces the same test. Can ordinary Americans still afford to live under it? For millions of Californians staring at utility bills, gas receipts, housing prices, and rolling affordability pressures, that answer is becoming harder to ignore. And that is Chris's Corner. I'm actually heading out to California in a couple of weeks for my birthday, and we're going to rent a car out there, Tim. And so we put in an application for a second mortgage on the house so we can afford the gasoline prices while we're out there for a few days.
Well, you and I are both crazy, and our listeners will think we're certifiable because guess what? I'm taking the family out there in August. Now, we're going to San Diego.
Right.
San Diego, as Will Ferrell
Beautiful
says.
weather.
And the reason we're going, look, there are a lot of really good people still in California, especially in San Diego. And I reminded my family that San Diego is one of the sane, if there is a sane part of California, it's because they have a military base there. There's a huge amount of military there, right?
San Diego is conservative.
And it is generally conservative. And I warned, we took the daughters out there a long time ago when they were little. They don't remember it. So we're like, okay, where can we go in August that is nice weather where you can hit a beach and it won't be 1,000 degrees and the weather's good? There's very few places in the U.S. like that. Unfortunately, most of them are in California.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's why we're going out there. But I'm the same boat you are. I said, just be prepared for some sticker shock on just about everything. And so we're going to do the zoo and the down out of the beach and that kind of stuff. Chris, I read 2 stories over the last 3 days that corroborate what you just said. 75% of California's fuel needs have to be taken care of by imports.
Yeah.
That's crazy in a state like that.
Chevron moved their headquarters to Texas, and then another oil company moved their headquarters to Texas as well. And Texas and California is awash in oil, especially off of their coast. But, you know, they've gone down this green thing, and so they're basically hurting themselves. I don't know how Californians don't really just rush Sacramento and their leaders and say, what the hell are you doing? We're paying $7 and $8 a gallon for gasoline when other states are paying $3 and $4.
And you know, we like to make fun of California because it's so easy, and we all say, well, thank God we don't. We always say, well, great place to visit. Thank God we don't live there. But here's why we shouldn't give up on California, Chris, because California's their policies are hurting the rest of the country. Could you imagine if California was still like it was, like in the 40s and 50s, the land of Ronald Reagan? Could you imagine an economy as big as California's, which is larger than most countries in the world? I think they got the 4th or 5th largest economy in the world. Can you imagine if they did not have insane policies and if they were clicking on all cylinders? The U.S. would be even better than it currently is.
And California's policies affect the nation because they've got these draconian emission standards out there. So these car companies can't sell their cars out there unless they put these modified things on them.
For everyone.
And because of that, like you said, they just put them on all the cars, increasing the costs for all of us. So
the other story I saw was Donald Trump taking a victory lap about something that came out of the UN. And I'm sure the lefties and the haters and the greenies and the TDSers, I'm sure they're mad at Trump for saying this, but he was only reporting what the UN actually did. Chris, the Climate Committee has decided the world is not going to come to an end.
Yeah. I've seen reports that now they're saying, Al Gore said this a few weeks ago, that now the planet is cooling. So go figure. Speaker stump speech?
Democrats are a dumpster fire.
Yes, and we just talked about that. And then we'll have our weekly discussion with Susie Moore, Deputy Managing Editor at RedState.com. You are listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Don't let spring surprises ruin your comfort. Johnson Heating and Cooling in Wentzville is offering air conditioner checkups for just $99. We'll check your Freon, inspect your condensate hose, and test all electrical connections. Plus, we'll clean your system for no additional charge if you act before June 30th. Keep your home running smoothly this season. Visit johnson-heatingandcooling.com. That's johnson-heatingandcooling.com. Johnson Heating and Cooling. Your comfort, our priority. Democracy is loud, and on Tuesday, June 2nd, you can be right in the middle of it. News Talk STL is bringing the St. Charles County Executive Primary Debate to Lindenwood University in St. Charles at the J. Scheidegger Center for the Arts. No reservations, no tickets, just show up. Can't make it in person? Catch every word live on News Talk STL from 7 to 8:30 p.m. The St. Charles County Executive Primary Debate on June 2nd. Brought to you by the St. Charles County Republican Central Committee, Mid-Rivers News Magazine, Lewis & Clark's Pachyderms Club, and the Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise at Lindenwood University.
Springtime in St. Louis, and if you hate to paint, do what your neighbor Mr. Rob Miller from Harvesttown Auto Body in St. Peters did. He called Rhino Shield. Rob, what was the thought process for going with Rhino Shield as a business owner?
My family's business is over 10,000 square feet, and it did not have the curb appeal I wanted.
Rob, tell everyone how the experience was with Rhino Shield from start to finish.
The process that I liked was when you came out, you gave me all of these options that would fit my building. Our building was really faded. I don't want to have to paint my building again. 25 years is a long time to not have to worry about the outside maintenance of your building as far as paint. That's a no-brainer. That's why Rhino Shield worked for me.
Are your neighbors jealous?
I would be if I was them.
Thanks, Rob. Now it's time to call 877-25-RHINO. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com. Genius.
Don't paint, don't Rhino. Go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefontaine, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 101.9 94.1.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. Authorities say 2 teenage suspects opened fire at an Islamic center in San Diego, killing 3 men before killing themselves. The slayings Monday are being investigated as a hate crime. That's according to Police Chief Scott Wall. The Islamic Center of San Diego is the largest mosque in San Diego County, according to its website. Wall says a security guard was among the victims and that the 2 suspects were found dead in a vehicle stopped in the middle of a road nearby. There's been a significant ruling in Luigi Mangione's upcoming state trial in the United Healthcare CEO murder.
A gun and a notebook, the prosecutors say, link Luigi Mangione to the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, can be used as evidence at his state murder trial. The judge's ruling Monday partially rejects a defense argument that those items were seized illegally at a Pennsylvania McDonald's where he was arrested before a search warrant was obtained. It's a major win for the Manhattan DA, enabling them to show the jury the possible murder weapon, and evidence, they say, points to motive. But the judge ruled other evidence found during an initial search of Mangione's backpack must be suppressed. Julie Walker, New York.
President Trump says he's holding off on a military strike on Iran planned for Tuesday because serious negotiations are underway. Trump's announcement in a social media post Monday came as he had threatened the clock was ticking for Iran to strike a deal or fighting would renew after a fragile ceasefire. The president did not offer details about the planned attack, but said he instructed the U.S. military, quote, to be prepared to go forward with a full large-scale assault of Iran on a moment's notice in the event that an acceptable deal is not finished, unquote. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 159 points, the Nasdaq dropped 134. More at townhall.com.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, the timeshare cancellation guy and founder of Wesley Financial Group, and I want to set the record straight. I am not an attorney. I've never wanted to be an attorney, and the truth is I really don't even like attorneys. If I sound like an attorney, I'll apologize. But what I've learned in my 15 years in the timeshare cancellation business is you don't need to be an attorney to get folks out of their timeshare. After 15 years and over 50,000 cancellations, I can tell you with confidence, we know how to get you out of your timeshare. Call us today and we'll send you our timeshare exit guide absolutely free with all your options for cancellation. Attorneys, this was meant to be funny, so please don't sue me, especially my friend Kenneth from Black River Falls, Wisconsin.
Call now for your free timeshare exit info kit. 800-926-5959. That's 800-926-5959. 800-926-5959.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert meteorologist Kristen Cornett with your forecast. A flood watch is in effect for the area through 1 p.m. on Tuesday. For tonight, scattered rain and storms are likely. Will drop to 69. More scattered rain and storms on Tuesday as a cold front moves through the area. Look for an afternoon high of 84. Scattered rain and storms Tuesday night as we drop to 57. And then for Wednesday, partly sunny skies with a high of 69. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Kristen Cornett.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hey, it's Susie Moore. If new flooring makes you think hassle, think again, because Michaels Flooring is changing the game. For over 30 years, Michaels has been locally owned and trusted for quality, variety, and amazing service. Whether it's carpet, hardwood, laminate, luxury vinyl, or ceramic tile, their expert team makes installing new floors exciting, not stressful. That's why customers keep coming back. Visit Michael's Flooring at St. Peter's, Starting Prairie, Creve Coeur, or online at igotfloored.com. That's igotfloored.com.
Everyone deserves a safe place to call home. Cedar Oak in High Ridge is a unique ministry providing more than just shelter. They offer hope, support, and a compassionate community for individuals rebuilding their lives. Since 2023, they've helped those facing housing challenges, especially when addiction has been part of their journey. At Cedar Oak, you'll find personalized care, empowerment, and real long-term solutions. Take the next step. Visit cedaroak.org. Cedar Oak, where new beginnings take root.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Wherever I'm at, home, car, wherever.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Just the convenience on the phone.
Streaming live on the mobile app.
Love the new app.
And listen anytime.
Everywhere.
Anywhere. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
Nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
I cannot help but think of the words of our 40th president, Ronald Reagan. He famously said, the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. It's a good quote, but I disagree. I think 9 more terrifying words are actually, I worked all day and can't feed my family.
Yeah, if that were only true. Welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 1019-94 News Talk STL. Yeah, Chris, there is a massive... See, this is what they don't tell you. They don't tell you the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey used to say. There is a massive social safety net in this country, which is already currently available for pretty much anyone and everyone that wants to seek out help. What he is saying, that was Comrade Mondami there in New York City announcing the first government-run grocery store, Chris, that'll be open next year in New York City, and people are already coming out of the woodwork to oppose it. What he's saying there is it's not good enough that we already have a multi-trillion-dollar social safety net. The government needs to do more. Cradle to grave nanny state.
And we know the bottom line of that is you create a cradle to grave nanny state. You are basically creating lifelong constituents. And that's what this is really more than about, more than anything. I've seen reports that if you factor in housing assistance, food stamps, and other types of public welfare, it adds up to about $50,000 a year. That's a pretty nice income for doing absolutely nothing.
It's really amazing. And however, some of you may be shocked to learn that there are a whole host. There is a huge multitude of New Yorkers who have come out against this proposal. And Chris, I saw a story today. You know who's leading the charge on this? The multi-ethnic group that makes up New York City's current food industry.
Yeah.
There's for those who don't know, New York is a massive melting pot. It is extremely diverse. It's extremely ethnic. It always has been, and always likely will be, because for a lot of people, even though we don't do much in the realm of transatlantic boat journeys anymore, a lot of people still enter New York as a port of call, whether they fly here or take a boat or whatever. New York is one of the first places that many immigrants see, and so a lot of people settle there. And there is a huge industry in New York of bodegas, which are like delis, and all the places that are open 24/7 making pizza and bagels and bread and food and produce. They have a massive amount of markets, and that's a lot of times that's the first kind of businesses that a lot of folks from other nations run, because they know their own food better than anybody else, and everybody wants that because it's very diverse. Well, they came out today and said, this is a horrible idea. You're going to try to put us all out of business until the government grocery stores fail, which they always do.
Yeah, I remember we had John Tobacco from Newsmax, Wise Guys, on last week, and he said that exact same thing, that the mom-and-pop grocery store owners are not happy about this government-run food store. Also, Mondami's plan for rent control is hurting your mom-and-pop landlords as well. So this is another example of socialism supposedly helping but ends up hurting. They always have great ideas, but once they are fleshed out and they are put into practice, they end up hurting the very people that they're supposedly helping.
Indeed. One of the many reasons why Democrats are a dumpster fire these days. That's the subject of today's Speaker Stump Speech. We'll get to in just a moment. And then after that, we will speak with Susie Moore. She's Deputy Managing Editor at redstate.com. Why are they trying so hard to bring down Kash Patel? The DOJ has turned tables on D.C. Bar with suit over weaponized disbarment effort. And the Justice Department has set up an anti-weaponization fund. All of those stories and more with Susie Moore at 525.
They're really upset about that one.
Yes.
That fun.
Indeed. And what's up at 545?
Yeah, we're going to talk about, did you know this? I don't really watch the NBA anymore after the 80s and 90s players retired from the NBA. I really stopped watching it. But you know, there hasn't been a U.S.-born NBA player that has won the MVP in 10 years.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all. Really?
All foreign-born players, they're the ones that are winning the NBA.
Wow.
MVP.
You're going to tell us all about that?
I'm going to tell you all about that, 545.
Very curious to hear that. All right, all that and more straight ahead, but without further ado, let's get to today's Speaker Stump Speech.
Listen to me, listen to me.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
It's time for the Speaker's Stump Speech, sponsored by Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com.
I want to ask about reaching further to the left. It's become very popular to ask elected officials, would you go on Hassan Piker's stream? Now, I want to kind of just make clear, Hassan and I don't really get along. He recently alleged that I have an AIPAC handler, something that he said without evidence, which actually really affected my show. I think the only reason he said that is I'm Jewish. I've never had an AIPAC handler or taken $1 from AIPAC or anything like that. But I recognize that he has a huge audience that is further to the left of where you are and where I am. Reaching to the middle, I understand. Is there value in trying to reach that young, further to the left, anti-capitalist audience that he has built for better or worse?
A leader should reach out to everyone.
Well, there's Senator Cory Booker with one of his typical patented answers, non-answers. The person who was the majority of that clip was probably a person you've never heard of. I hadn't heard of him until I found that clip, which has gone somewhat viral. He is a liberal Jewish podcaster. I don't know if he identifies as a Democrat or not, but he's a self-described liberal Jewish podcaster by the name of David Pakman. He was interviewing Senator Cory Booker about one of the latest lunatic leftists, this Hassan Piker guy. Another person that many of you have probably never heard of before, but this is the example of the raging civil war that is going on in today's Democratic Party. Now, most of you probably don't know that this is happening because the media who work, the legacy giant corporate media, they work overtime ignoring this fact, ignoring this story. Now, to prove that point, what do you hear about every Sunday on the big Sunday talk shows? Now, many of you probably don't listen to them. You rely on Chris and I to tell you what the lunatics said so you don't have to make your eyeballs bleed and completely waste your Sunday mornings when many of you are going to church and spending time with family. But on the Sunday talk shows, they basically spend most of the time praising Democrats, sucking up to Democrats, bootlicking Democrats, and then trashing or attempting to trash Republicans. When we get our best communicators on there, they often fail. You get somebody like a Marco Rubio, a J.D. Vance, Donald Trump. Many of our U.S. senators and congressmen handle the media really well, but they're always on the defensive. They're not being asked. So when the national liberal media is interviewing a Democrat, it's typically, or someone on the left, it's typically open-ended questions, easy softballs, and they allow the person being interviewed, the interviewee, plenty of room to roam. They can basically cover and touch any subject they want. Watch them interview a conservative, a Republican, a elected official on the right side of the aisle, and you'll notice it's a very different tact. It's basically what I would call in legal world adversarial questioning. It's a cross-examination. They're trying to pinhole them into a yes or no answer. They're trying to get them to say something stupid or dumb or something they'll regret. Again, I will give Republicans this. They've come a long way with their communicators. We have some of the best communicators now than we ever have, and often they pass those tests. But it's a very different interview, right? It's an easy interview versus a very difficult, constantly on the defensive, constantly watching every word you're saying type of equation. But what the left does not do is generally call attention to or show the fissures and the weaknesses within the Democratic Party, because basically they're cheerleaders for them and essentially run their comms operations. Now, there are some good interviewers in the national media. There are some people that are calling people out, and this David Pakman is one of them. Bill Maher is another one of them. They both happen to be Jewish, and I think it's because they're both sitting there going, now, wait a minute. We're liberals. We vote Democrat. And yet the party that we have adopted for our lives, and Bill Maher's been on the planet for many decades, Bill Maher's probably sitting here going, what's wrong with you people? I've supported you my entire career. I've defended you. I've carried the water for you. And now you all hate me because I'm Jewish? What is up with this anti-Semitism? And so David Pakman was kind of asking Cory Booker the same thing about this Hassan Piker guy, because this Hassan Piker guy is a virulent anti-Semite. I would love to ask some of these anti-Semites these days, on the right and the left, what is it about the Jewish people, the state of Israel, that you hate so much? Why do they bother you so much? They're going to say, oh, the Jews run the world. Well, that's not true at all, and that's just an example of your anti-Semitism. I would also like to ask them, don't you think that the theocratic Islamist jihadis are more of an actual threat? These are people that want to obtain nuclear weapons. They kill, rape, murder, behead, and assault, like we change our shoes and socks. And they literally want to eradicate Western civilization, including you. Like, you're on their side right now because it's fun and it's easy and you're in the United States of America, so nobody's coming for you. But just like when Benjamin Netanyahu uttered the famous phrase about gays for Palestine, he said that's like saying chickens for KFC. They don't realize that after they take care of all their immediate enemies, they're going to come for you next. So there is a raging civil war going on within the Democratic Party where the lunatic left in today's world is absolutely trying to hijack that party. And many would say the hijacking has already been completed. You have very few voices, lone wolves in the wilderness, like John Fetterman, like Bill Maher, sometimes like James Carville, saying that, I'm not sure we should continue to follow this new crew of hardcore Marxist communists. Hassan Piker has now become one of those podcasts that apparently Democrats feel they have to run the gauntlet through in order to get approval to be accepted by the party writ large. Recently, Hassan Piker spent an hour putting L.A. mayor hopeful, this person by the name of Nithya Raman, through an ideological meat grinder. Raman happens to be a Democratic Socialist of America member on the Los Angeles City Council, so he's pretty far left, and he's now running for mayor. But Piker, who is basically now the left's online communist commissar and social streamer, and fancies himself the gatekeeper of the far left truth, according to this article, is someone that they still have to go through. What was supposed to be a friendly chat eventually turned into a brutal purity test. And remember, this is Hassan Piker interviewing a guy who is literally self-described as a Democratic Socialist running for Los Angeles Los Angeles mayor. Piker went after him on his ideology, and almost entirely his ideology, not on his competence or the results that he would pursue as mayor. Remember, this guy's running for mayor. He's not running for he's not running for president. He's not running for U.S. senator or congressman. He's running for a position where you're supposed to basically make sure the trains run on time, make sure that the lights stay on, that the trash gets picked up, and that there's not carnage in your streets. Well, it apparently, no matter what you're running for in today's Democratic Party, they want to know all those things. They want to know where you are on being 100%, 1,000% pro-choice, abortion up to the point of birth. And in some cases, some might argue even beyond. They want to know your positions on climate change. They want to know whether or not you would support an inquisition of the state of Israel for investigating them for genocide in the International Court of Justice. Yeah, they even want to know this from a guy who wants to be mayor. The Democrats are setting up a purity test of all purity tests. It seems to be incredibly racially and ethnically driven. It seems to be definitely something of a puritanical aspect. But remember, in the patchwork quilt that they have as a party, once they get rid of all their enemies, you'll probably become the next one, and they'll come for you after they're done with the first. And that's the Speaker's stump speech for today.
I've been following Hassan Piker for the last few months or so, and he is a very, very popular podcaster on the left. He is a virulent anti-Semite, as you said. And I think this just demonstrates is that the politicians are afraid to criticize them, and they go on his podcast because that is where the energy is currently in the Democratic Party. It's with the far leftist, far left part of the base. That's where the energy is, and unfortunately, those politicians don't want to upset that base. So they're basically selling out their principles and what they believe in, not to upset the far left. And when you talk about the media narratives, this is the left's current media narrative. Trump's approval rating, gas prices, Republicans are going to lose the House, Republicans are losing moderate voters, Trump promised no more foreign wars. That's the basic media narrative that you see every single week on the Sunday shows.
And they don't talk about the Democrat failures at all.
Exactly.
This guy Piker, after he put poor Raman there through the meat grinder on Israel, he then went after her on her position on defunding the police, something from 6 years ago, which a lot of Americans, Chris, in 2024 said, we don't want to defund the police, And even in some of these urban areas, they're refunding the police. But Piker basically is like, nope, we need to defund the police. We need to have the end of law and order as we know it. And Raman was like, I'm not sure we're going back to that. That's not really a good idea.
Terrible idea. And your Democratic strategists are advising Democratic candidates to flee from anything talking about opposition to the police or defunding the police. They know that was a winner for them, a loser for them in the past few election cycles, and they are advising their candidates, don't go down that road again. And you have this idiot that's telling them to do just that. I encourage him, keep doing it.
Please, because it's not popular with maybe beyond the inner workings of L.A. These two lines in this article, I think, sum it up, the whole thing up really well. Piker lives in the fantasy land of 2020 slogans and basement-dwelling revolutionism. Raman, even as a committed far-left figure, is stuck dealing with that reality on the ground.
I think we see examples of this on the left and the right where these folks get a huge following And I think it's like an addiction. They get drunk on it, and they will take the most radical positions possible as long as it's getting them clicks and views and making them a bunch of money. And they don't care that they're selling out basically their souls in the process.
And you know,
that's on the left and the right.
Yeah, and you know it's a real shame. Once the money dries up and the grift is gone, and they move on and the fad is over, the damage left behind is extreme. It's done, and it largely takes years to heal.
I agree.
Yeah. 5:22 in the PM. We're going to get to a fantastic lady leader in her own right, Susie Moore. She's going to tell us about how the DOJ, Department of Justice, turned the tables on the D.C. bar, not a D.C. bar, the attorney bar, with a suit over the weaponized disbarment effort. I'm very curious to learn about that. And the Justice Department, in another sort of related story, has set up an anti-weaponization fund after Trump dropped his IRS lawsuit. All of that and more with our Red State maven and co-host of the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show. Susie Moore is next on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Don't you know that I'll always be true?
Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL.
Come with me, and I'll take my
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert meteorologist Kristen Cornett with your forecast. A flood watch is in effect for the area through 1 p.m. on Tuesday. For tonight, scattered rain and storms are likely. Will drop to 69. More scattered rain and storms on Tuesday as a cold front moves through the area. Look for an afternoon high of 84. Scattered rain and storms Tuesday night as we drop to 57. And then for Wednesday, partly sunny skies with a high of 69. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Kristen Cornett.
Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros and Exteriors, your all-in-one service team that brings years of experience and quality that's affordable right to your doorstep. Christine and I discovered Gutter Pros and Exteriors when we bought our home and inherited a gutter problem. And they've also repaired siding damage on our home because along with gutter repair, gutter installation, and leaf protection, the Gutter Pros team are also the best for repairing other exterior damage, including fascia, soffit, and all siding repair and installation. Learn about all the ways Gutter Pros and Exteriors can help your home or business right now at gutterpros.com.
Let's get real. Here's the truth about eliminating Missouri's income tax.
I'm here with State Representative Bishop Davidson. And Bishop, you've heard the complaints about the proposal. Here's your colleague, Representative Ashley Awney.
Frankly, the only thing that this resolution does is increase sales taxes.
So what does this do and what does it not do if we say yes?
The first part of this constitutional amendment is a constitutional shall. It's a guarantee to the people in Missouri that if they vote for this, that their legislature will enact and shall enact legislation to eliminate income taxes using natural economic growth over time. That means when the economy grows, instead of it going back into the coffers of the state, it goes into the pockets of Missourians. The second part is a constitutional may. It allows the legislature to have a conversation around sales taxes, but only so that they can eliminate income taxes faster and reduce local tax rates like personal property tax and real property.
Get the facts at afpmissouri.com. This Susie Moore segment brought to you by Harpo's Bar and Grill in Chesterfield.
Nothing so loud as hearing when we lie.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
And you said neither am I. And the air outside so soft, saying everything.
FBI Director Kash Patel is facing a fresh wave of scrutiny over a new excursion while on official FBI business when he was in Hawaii last summer. The Associated Press is now reporting that Patel took part in what government officials described as a VIP snorkel around a Pearl Harbor memorial coordinated by the military. Patel's tenure leading the nation's top law enforcement agency has been littered with headlines about his use of taxpayer resources for travel, like back in February when Patel generated controversy for appearing to chug beer with the U.S. men's Olympic hockey team.
Oh, Susie Q, baby, I love you. Susie Q.
I'm the boss. How about that?
As she does every Monday afternoon, Susie Moore is back with us once again here on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Susie, of course, is co-host of the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show with Mr. Mike and producer Jerome. She's also deputy managing editor of RedState.com and the host of Red State Radio every Sunday at 4 p.m. Susie, good afternoon. Welcome back to the program.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks for having me back.
Mm-hmm. Susie, you heard that clip there with Kash Patel. You know, Susie, sometimes it's hard to tell with some of these figures. Look, Kash Patel has always been a very, let's say, a very kind of rambunctious kind of a figure, right? And you wonder if they bring this kind of criticism on themselves, or is it because of what they're doing and the position they're in, him being with the FBI and cracking down on some stuff the Democrats probably don't like, or maybe it's both, and they're just using all of this as leverage to force him out. What do you think about Mr. Patel, and do you think he's long for the administration? Does Trump still like him, which seems to be the ultimate thing that really matters?
Well, I think it could be both. I mean, there's no question that there's a concerted effort to divide and conquer, if you will, to take aim at any and all cabinet officials or administration officials and peel them away from Trump if they can. If they can't get to him directly, and when I say they, I'm referring to basically the left, the media, the opposition. But Patel has definitely drawn his share of criticism and scrutiny. And it doesn't mean that he's without fault. Like maybe there's some things that he should do differently. I don't really know. I haven't really delved that far into like the specifics about the snorkeling, although I don't think that was a unique thing for him. I think there's just a tendency to make much more out of anything related to any of the cabinet officials than is probably warranted. And so, the ultimate test, as you said, is whether or not President Trump is satisfied with the person in their role in that job. I do think that he personally likes Kash Patel, but I also think he probably thinks he's doing a pretty good job, because being drowned out by all the sensationalist headlines, there's also the fact that while he's had this role, the FBI has been, making tons of arrests and doing the job that they've been asked to do. So I think that it's kind of hard to say that he's not getting the job done. I know there are some areas that people would like to see more, but I think he's been doing a pretty good job.
Susie, the San Diego Islamic Center shooting was a breaking story as we were coming on the air. What's the latest with that you know of?
So law enforcement just gave an update on it not too long ago. It sounds like the shooters were two teens, a 17-year-old and a 19-year-old, and they are both dead, apparently from self-inflicted gunshot wounds. They also killed 3 people. I think it was 3 men. Don't know yet anything else about the identity of the suspects or of the people who were killed, motive, that sort of thing. It's all still unfolding. But the one thing we do know is that supposedly the threat is neutralized. But obviously very disturbing. It doesn't matter whether it's an Islamic center or a church or synagogue or wherever. People shouldn't be having to worry about, being shot at like this. It kind of reminded me a little bit of the shooting yesterday in Austin, where there was a couple of teens that were involved in kind of like going on a shooting rampage throughout the city, and portions of the city were on lockdown. Same sort of thing. So it kind of makes you wonder what else is going on here.
Susie, it seems like we have a youth violence problem in the country, cultural. We also had the stories over the weekend about the roving bands of teens, right? Just waltzing into places and creating all sorts of mayhem and literally shutting some places of business down. Susie, you wonder, where's the parents in all of these situations? Where have they been?
Yeah, exactly. Did you say Utes? Yeah, I mean, we just saw this in St. Louis not long ago. We had the whole issue on 314 Day. And then so the city imposed a curfew, and they've enforced it on and off, but they did enforce it after they announced they were going to do that, and that seemed to have a tempering effect, if you will, on it. I suspect that in some situations the parents just aren't aware that what their kids are up to. And, when you're talking about teenagers, that isn't necessarily in and of itself a horrible thing, but at a certain point you do need to know what your kids are up to and make sure that they are abiding by the laws and not just roving and engaging in mob behavior. And I think most of us, you, me, all of our listeners probably grew up with parents that if they knew that you were doing this kind of behavior would have grabbed you by the ear and yanked you home and not let you out of your room for a decade or so. But obviously there's a need for there needs to be, crack down by law enforcement, but there needs to be support from the parents at home, and we hopefully will see more of that. But I don't know how you do that unless parents are held accountable.
Susie, as expected, Louisiana Senator Bill Cassidy lost his primary on Saturday. The next big race folks will be watching is tomorrow in Kentucky. Thomas Massie is up for re-election in that primary. He has gained the ire of President Trump, as did Bill Cassidy. But I'm seeing a lot of support online from conservatives, and not rhinos. These are pretty conservative people, for Thomas Massie. What do you think is going to happen tomorrow? Do you think he wins or loses?
Well, I think that's a fair question because the polling's been kind of all over the place. But a lot of support online doesn't necessarily translate into a lot of support in Kentucky District 4. So the real question is, what do his constituents think about him? And the people that are most likely to get out and vote in the primary are those people who generally support him or who are going to not appreciate the fact that he seems to kind of be opposed to President Trump now in the Trump agenda. I guess we'll find out tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of a contentious situation, and he definitely has his fans and people who are big supporters of his. Whether that's enough to hold on to his seat, I don't know. I think it's maybe going to be a close call.
Speaking with Susie Moore of the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show. She's the co-host every morning, 5:30 to 9 a.m. right here at News Talk STL, and also she is a prolific writer and editor at redstate.com, one of our fantastic collaborative partners. Susie, you had a piece that went up late last week, regarding the Trump Department of Justice. The headline, Department of Justice turns tables on D.C. bar with suit over weaponized disbarment effort. Susie, what's this all about?
So this goes back to one of Trump's advisors in his first administration, Jeffrey Clark. He's an attorney, and he was one of the people advising President Trump after the 2020 election. And he wrote a memo that said, what about this? Basically was throwing out potential legal theories, but potential ways to challenge some of the results of the election. It didn't end up actually getting distributed. It was like kind of a draft memo. But because of that, the D.C. bar, of course, after clutching its pearls and falling on the fainting couch, decided that it needed to move to disbar Jeffrey Clark. And so they took that action, that recommendation has been made. And so that was just one of many examples. They've gone after Ed Martin and others. Stanley Woodward is another one that they've gone after. And, the thing about the D.C. bar is if you're practicing in and around D.C., they kind of hold your fate in their hands. And so it seemed like this was a political move. And so the Justice Department has gone on offense and sued the different disciplinary organizations and some of the ringleaders, if you will, basically saying they're interfering with others' rights. And I don't know how far the suit will go. I don't know if it's got enough legs to make it past the motion to dismiss, but it certainly is an interesting tack, and it's kind of, a brushback pitch, if you will, saying, hey, you don't get to just go after lawyers because you don't like their politics or who they were advising.
Susie, reality star Spencer Pratt, is running for mayor of L.A. He seems to be having a little bump in momentum. He put out an ad last week that was an AI ad that I heard was very clever, but I have not seen it and didn't have enough interest in it to really check it out. Tell us about Spencer Pratt's AI ad and why it's generating so much attention.
Well, Chris, I got to be honest, I'm not sure which ad you're talking about because he's put out a bunch of ads, and then a lot of people who are supporting him have put out their own ads. And so sometimes it's not easy to tell if it'll say if it's from his campaign, but I don't know what that's specifically in reference to. There was a cool little Lego takeoff last week that was, instead of everything is awesome, it was everything is awful. It was really kind of skewering Karen Bass, and that was very clever, but I don't think that was put out by the campaign. There was one that may have been put out by the campaign that had to do with yoga moms. Was that the one you're thinking of?
I think that was the one.
Okay, I just saw that this morning, and it's basically a bunch of women who look like they live in L.A. and do yoga on the regular, having sort of a hushed conversation in the yoga studio about, don't tell anybody, but I'm going to vote for Spencer Pratt. And then they're all kind of one by one, their ears are perking up and they're kind of stepping into the conversation like, really? You too? So it's obviously designed to appeal to a lot of what one of the key voting demographics in Los Angeles, and kind of get that whole idea out there that like it's okay. It's not a dirty secret. It's actually okay to be voting for Spencer Pratt and not Karen Bass or Nithya Raymond.
The L.A. hoi polloi, huh? The yoga mom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Susie, I didn't know who Spencer Pratt was 4 or 5 weeks ago. Apparently, he was a reality TV star, and he's now hit the big time as a political action figure, and he's in the running to be mayor.
I had never heard of him either, to be honest with you.
So he was on the reality show back in the early 2000s, maybe late 19. I don't know exactly when it was. I think it was early 2000s. It was called The Hills.
Okay.
And so it was very much focused on that Hollywood set. I did not watch it myself. I was vaguely aware of Spencer and Heidi. I knew that was a couple. That was about the extent of it. But and I did know that he was kind of one of the villains, if you will, in the show. That's all I knew about him. The reason that he's risen to prominence is because his was one of the many, many, many homes destroyed in the Palisades fire last year. And he, while not being in any way political before then, and certainly not being a Republican or a conservative, he's been motivated by what he's seen since then, by the sheer incompetence and the insensitiveness and the just complete corruption that he's seen and become acquainted with because of what he's had to deal with. And so he's basically, become an activist, and now he is running to replace Karen Bass, and he is surging. And he's kind of unconventional. He's kind of brash. But he's also kind of the guy that's like the common sense dude. And it seems to be resonating with people.
Susie, in a couple of weeks, I am heading out to L.A. for my 60th birthday, and those that listen to the show know that I like to attend presidential libraries, so we plan on hitting the Reagan and Nixon libraries. And looking at Red State, I see that there are wildfires out there, and one of the pictures showed a lot of smoke around the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library sign. Is my trip in danger to attend these libraries?
It could be. They've evacuated the area, and it's very concerning. It's a very fast-moving fire, just kind of developed today. I know people in the area. I've got family in the area. Some of my coworkers have family in the area, so it's a pretty serious situation and a large area that's being evacuated. A lot of that is hill country and a lot of horses and stuff. So that's a very tenuous situation, and I guess the saving grace is it's Ventura County rather than LA County, so the actual officials might be more competent and the fire department might be more competent.
Right.
So fingers crossed, Chris, that you are still able to enjoy your trip and that they get the fire under control.
I hope so.
Yeah, indeed. Speaking with Susie Moore of Red State, redstate.com. Susie, there was another piece I saw I wanted to ask you about. It was it's similar. It's got the word weaponization as the word of the day, apparently. The Justice Department's setting up an anti-weaponization fund after Trump dropped his IRS lawsuit. What's going on there?
Yeah, so you might recall during his first administration, his tax returns were leaked to the press.
Oh, yeah.
And so he sued the IRS over that for the invasion of privacy, essentially. And so in relation to that, he's agreed to settle the lawsuit. But one of the conditions is that a special fund be set up that's supposed to be designed to help fund people who were the victims of government weaponization, either in their defense or to compensate them for some of the things that they went through. And that would include some of the J6 defendants, that sort of thing. I haven't looked at all the particulars, but of course it is causing the left to set their hair on fire. So that's about all I know about that.
Susie, who funds the fund? Is it taxpayer dollars? Do we know yet?
I would assume that it would almost have to be.
Okay.
But so it's a settlement that, theoretically, if the IRS were held to account, if the suit went all the way through and they were found liable, the taxpayers would be paying that bill as well. So this is, instead of the money going to Donald Trump personally, it's to set up this fund to help other people who were the victims of government weaponization.
Oh, okay. There we go.
And finally, Susie, you have an article up about your favorite Supreme Court Justice, KBJ. What's that all about?
Well, so the Supreme Court today, they didn't hand down like formal opinions, but every Monday pretty much they hand down an order list. And one of the things that they did today was in a couple of other lawsuits involving the Voting Rights Act, they basically said, hey, lower courts, you need we're going to vacate your rulings and you need to relook at your cases now that we've ruled on Calais. And one of those involved a case out of Mississippi, and one of them involved a case out of North Dakota. And so they basically, it was very just, like a paragraph where it just said, we're going to grant review. We're saying we're vacating the lower court rulings, and we're telling the lower courts to look at it again under Calais. And Ketanji Brown Jackson was the sole dissenter in both cases, and she basically said, she's pushing back on the court doing this, saying that they're basically being too proactive. But the thing that's particularly interesting is she used the same language in her dissent as to both cases, even though they involved separate issues. And you'll notice that her friends, Sonia Sotomayor and Elena Kagan, did not join in her dissent, even though they both dissented with her from the Calais decision. So
what does that tell you?
She's maybe overreading things, or super duper sensitive, or kind of being motivated by activism rather than legal jurisprudence. That's the way I read it.
Interesting indeed. And that is Susie Moore. You can hear her tomorrow morning. She'll be with Mike Ferguson and producer Jerome out of the gates 5:30 a.m. as they are every morning. Also check out all the Susie's work at redstate.com, and check her out as well right here on Sundays, hosting Red State Radio at 4 p.m. Susie, thanks for everything as always.
Thanks, Susie.
Thanks, guys. Have a great evening.
You too as well.
The hardest working woman at News Talk STL.
I mean, I tell you what, it takes several minutes to read her bio. Yeah, she is a great addition to us here. We're so happy to have her, and definitely check out redstate.com. They always have the latest breaking news that you need to know. We got one segment left. My goodness, Chris, what are you going to tell us all? What are you going to talk?
Americans,
the NBA.
Americans are no longer winning the NBA MVP. I'll tell you all about that next.
And we're right in the middle of the finals still, right? The playoffs?
Yes.
We're still right in the middle of that. Yeah, all right. More of that when we return here on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Then we'll hand you off to Larry Connors USA. All of that straight ahead. 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert meteorologist Kristen Cornett with your forecast. A flood watch is in effect for the area through 1 p.m. on Tuesday. For tonight, scattered rain and storms are likely. Will drop to 69. More scattered rain and storms on Tuesday as a cold front moves through the area. Look for an afternoon high of 84. Scattered rain and storms Tuesday night as we drop to 57. And then for Wednesday, partly sunny skies with a high of 69. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Kristen Cornett.
Oh, Hank, what a wonderful spider web you have built for us. I love this fabulous space we have right here in the corner of the kitchen.
Thanks, Charlotte. I think I'll build us a vacation web in the coat closet. Oh, no. It's the pest control company again with those green wheels. They always kill the mood.
This is Derek, the owner of All Solutions Pest Control. Give us a call today at 636-486-7888. We'd love to help you out. Learn more about our special $67 offer. You can visit us online at allsolutionspestcontrol.com.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
Hi, it's Ken Williams, and my favorite Capriati sandwich is the Capistrami. You've got hot pastrami, melty Swiss cheese, crunchy coleslaw, and zesty Russian dressing. What else do you need? I love Capriati's, and you will too. On Manchester at McKnight and Rock Hill, and now in Creve Coeur on Olive, just 1 mile west of 270.
Hey, Columbo here for Rockwood Charcoal. Rockwood is made from 100% pure Missouri oak and hickory, so you're cooking with the best and supporting local industry and a local business all at once. There's over 100 area Rockwood retailers. Find yours at rockwoodcharcoal.com.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
A jury just reached a verdict in the federal civil case against OpenAI.
This, of course, a weeks-long case. The judge tossing out tech billionaire Elon Musk's suit against the company and its CEO, Sam Altman.
And the jury now siding with OpenAI on some of the biggest legal questions. So according to the verdict form that's currently being read in court, jurors found that multiple claims brought by Elon Musk included breach-related claims, unjust enrichment. They were barred by the statute of limitations, meaning they believe that too much time had passed for those claims to move forward here.
More AI. And Tim, you know, we talk about AI, how a lot of people are worried that it's going to eliminate white-collar jobs. And so young people are encouraged to take up the trades because that's where the jobs are going to be. AI can't do plumbing. It can't do electrical work. But I've got a story here. AI may eliminate tire installers. I know you're like, how does that work?
I could see that, like an assembly line kind of thing.
Well, there's a company called Automated Tire Incorporated. They have developed what they're calling Smart Bay. It's a robotic system that can inspect vehicles, swap tires, and balance wheels with minimal human help. The AI-powered system lets a single technician manage up to 3 service bays simultaneously. Robots can do a tire service in 30 minutes. That's more than twice as fast as human workers. ATI leases the system to dealerships and tire shops for just under $5,000 per month. That's less than what it costs to hire an experienced technician. So AI eliminating tire installer jobs. I would have never saw that one coming.
Yeah, I guess if you can create like an assembly line thing. I did and I know all this is a bit terrifying to a lot of people. It is to all of us. But I did see a story the other day where the author went through all the periods of history where we had industrial revolutions. And at each one, everyone was equally terrified.
Yeah.
Now, this one feels a little different, I admit, because we're like talking about machines possibly becoming sentient, able to do all these things.
And the technology is just evolving so quickly.
So quickly. And but they made the point that new jobs that we didn't even think about, that didn't even exist, were created out of this. So, Chris, as long as human beings don't want to be complete couch potatoes and be hooked up to a machine like in the Matrix, then we should find something for ourselves to do long into the future.
Tim, this is a story that shows you that a lot of us, too many of us, are taking politics way too serious. This is an ad that is on the internet right now.
Okay.
Quote, our cognitive therapist can work with you on how to manage stress and mental health concerns linked to current events. Learn how we can help you regain control and improve your quality of life. There are countless ads like this on the internet, and they seem to be reaching their intended audience. Not only are more people depressed or anxious about the state of the world, but now they are seeking professional help, and therapists are more than ready to give it. Is it that serious?
For some people, it is. For some people, it is. You know what I will say? Just like with everything else, you have to do it in moderation, right? And I tried to do this myself over the weekend, and I did succeed to a point. Session was over Friday night, and the adrenaline dumped out of all of our bodies. We're like, oh, thank God, session's over. And then I put my phone away for about 18 hours, and I did not tweet anything. I didn't pick it up. And I mean, I look for text,
sure.
But I tried not to engage in any sort of political discussion or anything because I was like, session's over, we're done. Let's decompress for a minute. I felt better.
Yeah.
I kind of was like, oh, the birds are singing and the sun's out. And
you
it's
don't need
nice...
a cognitive therapist?
Yeah, not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. I might in the future. I'm glad to know the resources available. But that's what I would seek some self-help first, you know? Yeah. Nothing is good when you do it obsessively or all the time or nonstop. But Chris, I think some people, they've gone down the wormhole and they can't pull themselves out.
And a big reason of that is, of course, is the algorithm. If you like a particular type of content, then the algorithm is going to show that content to you over and over and over. So if you're watching political things that are creating rage or creating anger, guess what? That's what the algorithm is going to show you, and it just basically just feeds upon itself.
It does. If you, I've noticed this because I've done this little test. If you go to like a website to like check something out, like you're looking for new shirts or you're looking for a watch or you're looking for whatever, when you go back to your Facebook or Twitter or whatever a day or two later, the ads of what you looked at pop up. I mean, almost instantaneously.
Yeah.
It has gotten really good.
And then remember, we've talked about this over the last few years. And, this hasn't happened as often as it did before. And maybe the AI companies and Facebook and Alexa realized that this was kind of angering people. But I remember we've got an Alexa device, and if I would say something about a particular company or a particular product or something, I would see that ad on my Facebook page just through Alexa listening to me. Now, that was kind of worrisome. And I remember reading something where they admitted that Alexa is listening in on your conversations, but they try to qualify that by saying, oh, it's just trying to learn things. They're not keeping your information or tracking it. They just it's for teaching the AI and teaching the model to what your interests are.
So I think that Tony Colombo is maybe the most listened to, watched, and tracked man in history because he tells these stories all the time.
Yeah.
Where it's gotten to the point where he can almost have a passing thought about something, and then suddenly stuff's showing up on his phone, on his Alexa, and everything else you just mentioned. And I don't know what is in Tony's algorithm, but these companies seem to have his number.
I mean, it was getting to the point there when it was really prevalent that Becky and I would whisper, we don't want the AI to hear what we're saying. Who knows who's listening to it? I mean, you shouldn't have to live like that in your own home.
Does she start talking sometimes on her own?
Every now and then.
Every once in a while.
Every now and then. Yeah, it's we didn't say anything to you. Shut up.
Yeah, my wife says, "Why?" we didn't just say her name. We didn't just. Why is she talking? I go, I don't know. There's ghosts in the machine.
Or Big Brother.
Or
Big Tech is listening.
Orwell's checking in on you.
Tim, Canada's, and I hope I say this correctly because I don't watch the NBA, but Canada's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was named the NBA's most valuable player, making it nearly a decade since a U.S.-born athlete has won the award in the U.S.-dominated Professional Basketball League. Gilgeous-Alexander, whose Oklahoma City Thunder are vying to defend their NBA championship, has won the award for a second year running, cementing foreign-born players' dominance. The next three highest vote-getters were Serbian, French, and foreign-born and Slovenian, while the Defensive Player of the Year was French.
Huh.
The results come with the NBA growing its global footprint, having reportedly received multi-billion-dollar bids for franchises in a proposed European league that could open as early as next year. But, yeah, the European players, they are dominating, and I've heard some of the reasons for that is, the NBA was traditionally a black league. A lot of the stars are black. But a lot of the black NBA players like to smoke weed, and they're not taking their craft as serious as they should. So
Really?
I've seen reports where some of these guys admit they go on the court stoned out of their minds.
Yikes.
And the NBA is kind of known for being more lax with its players using marijuana. So that could be it,
Huh.
A lot of these players, they're at the top of their game. They're young, and they don't realize that, you're in this league for a short period of time. You have to take care of your body, take care of your mind if you want to last, but they don't have that mentality because they're young and they're thinking they're invincible. I mean, there's a reason why Tom Brady played well into his 40s and is at the level that he was because
pristine.
he took tremendous care of his body. He had workout coaches, he had supplements, all of that. That wasn't just luck or genetics. He made sure that he took care of his body, and that's the reason why at that position, which is kind of rare for a quarterback to play. I think, what did Brady retire, like 44?
He was in his 40s.
45, something like that.
Which is unbelievable. And, Chris, something interesting along those lines, but a little bit of a different twist. Something interesting happened with the PGA Championship this weekend.
They're smoking weed?
Well, maybe, but I don't know about that. Regarding foreign players versus American-born players. So the PGA Championship has been around like 100 and some odd years.
Sure.
And foreign players have won it 19 times.
Oh, wow.
But Aaron Rye from England was the first foreign-born player to win it in 11 years. So it had been 11 years before him, the Australian Jason Day. And
it is their game, though.
Well, it is, but Americans have dominated, because we do everything to the nth degree. But Aaron Rye, he's actually I'll screw up his ethnicity because I don't know it. I'm assuming he's either Pakistani or Indian, but born and raised in England, And he's apparently one of the most well-liked, respected guys on the tour because he's like a gentleman's gentleman. Yeah. And when they interviewed him, he said something along the lines you did about what these basketball players may not realize. They asked him about he's been on the tour for 14 years. Right. He's been a grinder, you know.
Oh, wow.
And they said, what's it mean to you to win this? He goes, it means that all the hard work, all the discipline, all the thousands of hours of practice that nobody sees you have paid off, you know.
Don't we have a few years ago, back in 2008, my wife and I went to the BMW Championship out at Belle Reve. Isn't that going to be here in St. Louis this year?
Yes, there is a I don't know if it's the BMW, but you're correct. There is a tournament coming in August. It is a PGA tournament. And
Are you going?
I hadn't planned on it, but I maybe like to go. Yeah. They're fun to swing by and go for a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, that is the end of our show. Coming up next, Larry Connors USA. And I can't believe this is a 46-year-old story, but the Mount St. Helens volcano explosion was today. And if you remember, there was an old man there who was at the base of the mountain. They tried to evacuate him. He said, I'm staying here, and they unfortunately never did find him. So Larry Connors USA, the Mount St. Helens volcano explosion. You have been listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. Drive safe and have a great evening.
Hey, it's Susie Moore for Window World. Did you know that in just over the last 20 years, Window World of St. Louis has improved the look and thermal efficiency for over 80,000 customers in St. Louis? Plus, Window World windows come with a lifetime warranty that covers all parts, glass breakage, and labor. And now, Window World is offering 36 months, same as cash financing with approved credit. Call them today at 800-GET-WINDOWS for a free in-home, no-pressure